Hi everyone. In this video tutorial, I would like to show you just how easy it is to configure a test in LoadComplete. As you can see over on the left, I have already created a project and recorded a scenario. All that's left to do is configure a test. Because I created the project and recorded the scenario using the wizard also created a default test for me. This default test is just a test that runs a single virtual user a single time through your scenario to make sure that everything was recorded properly and that your scenario works. By clicking on Verify Scenario, you're actually running this default test. I've done that and I got good results. So now I'm going to modify my default test to match what I want to do in this load test today. So the first thing you want to look at is the user count. What I'd like to do instead of running a single virtual user is I'm going to run 10 virtual users. We're going to use the same scenario that we have here, and we're going to run it from the workstation that LoadComplete is installed on, otherwise known as master. Down below, currently we're set to steady load. Steady load means that all of your virtual users will start at the same time. It's not so bad when you're running just a few virtual users, but when you run a much larger number of virtual users, it can be a detriment to your test because you could create artificial bottlenecks within your application. If, for example, you're doing a login and you have 2,000 virtual users all doing the login at the exact same millisecond, that can be an issue. So we can look at stepwise. Stepwise, you're able to ramp up from a small number to a larger number. And you start with a certain number, you add a certain number every certain amount of seconds. And that's the one that we're going to use today. You also have the ability to use a custom shape. And that's a little bit outside of the scope of this particular video, but it's really cool. You can hand draw your own load profile where your users increase and decrease over time. Stepwise is used probably 90 to 95% of the time in load testing. You just start with a low number and you increase. And then once you reach the number that you specified at the top, then you hold that number until the end of the test. So let's start with one virtual user, and we'll add one virtual user every 2 seconds. Next tab is very important, continuous load. You want to enable continuous load, because if you don't enable continuous, every virtual user, once it completes the scenario a single time, will go idle. You want your virtual users to run the scenario, dump their cache and all their session information, and then start over again, thereby building up to a larger number. So we'll run the test for 1 minute, and for think time, we'll use the time defined in the scenario. That was the time recorded. When you actually did your recording, there was think time that was built in at that point, and we'll just use that today. Also have quality of service. If you have, for example, an SLA that says no page shall exceed 5 seconds to come back, you would put that here, and by checking this box, you would throw an error anytime you exceed that amount of time. That's not our purpose today. We can also stop if we reach a certain number of errors. So let's go back. Here we are, we're all set to go. We're going to climb from 1 to 10 virtual users, and we're going to do it at a rate of 1 virtual user every 2 seconds. So let's start our test. As you can see, we're doing exactly what we said. We're climbing up. The blue line is the number of virtual users, and it's ramping up to 10. Now it's going to hold that steady across the screen. The number of processed requests are showing up here. And we're at halfway through our test right now. What's going to happen is once we reach our time limit that we've set of 1 minute, the test is going to complete and it's going to generate a report for us. Here we go. And our test came back with no errors and everything looks good. See you next time.